Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crapper, the classic rock and prog almanac. Today with Peter Turner.
Hello.
And myself, Tim Appleton. Sean is AWOL this week. And, it's reasonable because this is Christmas week. And, in a sense, welcome to our Christmas special, slightly delayed. So maybe Christmas and New Year's Eve special, or what do they call it? Yeah, Epiphany. And we were trying to think of it like a fun, in inverted commas, end of year topic. So what we've decided to do this time is our top 5 favourite songs about animals. That's to say, I think songs which have animals in the title or in the theme, but I think mainly in the title. I think that was the idea. We're going to do. I think we're going to do it in 2 halves. We're going to do top 5 vertebrates, and then top 5 invertebrates. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So this required some biological research. This topic, at least on my part. I don't think I've studied this much biology since I was at school, actually. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to learn something from doing this. We just thought it was a diagonal way of cutting through the material. I mean, I should say, animals have a special place philosophically, right? They're what Kant calls the animated, non-rational part of creation in his groundworks of the metaphysics of morals. And so, philosophers have often contemplated the status of animals in creation, as it were, in the universe or in the world, as it were. So maybe this will tell us something about the philosophies of our heroes. I suppose one thing that you could do is the people who are listening is try to guess which songs are going to come up.
Yes.
That might be a way through the material. Did you have fun with this one, Peter?
Well, yeah, it was an interesting one, this, because I mean, most people will know this, but the animal kingdom is split into 2 halves: vertebrates and invertebrates. The invertebrates absolutely outweigh. I think literally outweigh the vertebrates. You've got the vertebrates, all the main animals that and in the vertebrates, all these other things, that really much harder to find songs about, actually. But yeah, it was an interesting sort of investigation, because what I realised, of course, is that everything that we normally do already has an album cover, and it's just sitting there, and we just need to have a listen, and go through it and sort of form our opinions, things that we're familiar with. This theme is completely different, because all these songs are spread very thinly across many, many albums, aren't they? Songs about birds and mammals and fish, amphibians. They're out there, but how do you find them? So I naturally did the normal search, which was about 1,000 different songs in a list somewhere on Wikipedia. So I had a look on there. But then actually what's strange, I realised that there were some songs that I know really well that are very close to me, actually, that I suddenly realised, oh, actually, that is an animal song, isn't it? It's a bit odd that I realised there were some which I really like, and they're just sort of sitting there. I didn't have to look far for some of them, but it was fun to look for them. God, yeah.
Yeah, the research part. I mean, I must say I lost some respect for the science of biology,
right,
during this research, because I realised that I don't want to offend anyone, but physics and chemistry, they're sort of mathematizable, aren't they? But a lot of biology just seems to be going, oh, look, there's one of those, and there's one of those. And if we put those together for some random reason, then we've got a category of species or something. And,
right.
I don't know. Anyway, none of that has anything to do with the history of rock music.
What I was also aware of was the fact that this is a task you could never completely do, because there's always going to be something else out there. And you're going to mention songs that I'm just going to tut and think, well, why didn't I think of that? So I think it's almost like an incomplete thing, this. You can never entirely know if these are your top, 5 and top 5 for invertebrates, because there probably are others, but, you could spend years trying to track them down.
True. Hunt them down.
Hunt them down, squash them.
All right, good. Well, look, let's go for it then. So we're doing vertebrates first of all, 5-1, and so Do you want to kick this one off? What have you got at
Yes.
number 5 for vertebrates?
So, vertebrates. Yeah, I've got my first one. I've got When Doves Cry.
Right.
I've actually written here bird. Bird. This is by Prince. So this is from 1984. So a long time ago now. We're talking 40 plus years. I've always really loved When Doves Cry. I think in a way it's like the best song he ever did. And it's fairly early. If you know, Prince was sort of in the conscience of kind of certain people, and America more, you know, before he sort of came over the Purple Rain sort of era. But I absolutely love this, and I think what I've come to appreciate more is that it's so simple. It's got such a groove to it, this song, and it's so simple. You know, it's danceable. It's got a great tune to it. I mean, everything about it I really like as a pop song. But what really fascinated me about it was the opening verse, which has basically, it has a drum accompaniment. And you don't realise the melody kind of, or the accompaniment isn't there at all. But the melody's so strong, it feels like the accompaniment there. But it's actually like a cappella, the first verse. And I always found that fascinating, that idea that you could kind of follow. It's like you're almost filling in the gaps yourself for some of it. But, you know, I mean, Prince, I'm not a huge fan of Prince, but I think this is just an absolute corker of a song. I absolutely love this. And I think his simplicity is the core, you know, for this. And, you know, what else do you need, really, but a simple tune?
Great, yes. It's a good track, that one, isn't it? I think that it's probably the first Prince song I ever heard, you know, on Top of the Pops as a kid, was that one. And I was impressed. You know, I haven't sort of followed his career, you know, obsessively.
No.
But
I have tried, but it's hard.
Do doves cry, though?
Well, when they do is the... I don't know. The lyrics are a bit imponderable. I'm not quite sure what the point of the lyrics are, but, you know.
So is it one of those like meditations on the infinite, like when hell freezes over sort of thing?
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. It's all in his head, I think, or was.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. Well, look, my number 5 is "Fox on the Run" by Manfred Mann from 1968.
Oh.
Manfred Mann, you know, reputedly one of the best cover bands of the 60s, right? Dylan Dixit. And yeah, this is one of their great covers. It's a great song, I think. Sort of sounds like a folk song in a way, but also like they're brilliant arrangers, you know. And like the arrangement here is so dense for like a 3.5 minute song when it's got so much stuff going on in it. It's very it's a tribute to their imaginative powers, really. I think you got sort of the kind of like the Baroque chord arrangement, the sort of emblematic chord changes, choral vocals. You've got sort of like epic lyrics, you know, psychedelic ending, completely unrelated to the rest of the track, which was, you know, de rigueur at the time. Yeah, and I actually, in a way, I think that this is sort of, I sometimes fantasize that this is the beginning of prog rock. The way that they have this song, and then all of a sudden at the end they just go into something completely different. You know, like the Small Faces with, what's it called, Lazy Sunday and things like that. And like, because they could have turned what came next into another song. And when they started doing that, I feel like, well, then you had prog rock, you know, emerging out of that kind of psychedelia. So yeah, it's also got a fox hunt, sound of a fox hunt at the end, a la Sergeant Pepper, you know.
Oh yes.
Good morning.
Yeah,
good morning.
That's right.
Good morning on Sergeant Pepper. I suppose that's a lift, really, but yeah. Of course, fox hunts were later banned under Labour in Britain.
There's a fox hunt on the front of Foxtrot as well, isn't there? Or on the album cover.
There is, yes.
There is. Genesis.
So yeah. It's a. I was going to say maybe fox hunts will be coming back under the next Reform government, but that's something to look forward to. But yeah, just love this track. Also contains one of the most ambitious key changes in the history of rock. It's a classic semitone step halfway through.
Oh.
Semitone step up, but the melody is quite elaborate. So you know, Mike Darbo has to do. You know, must have used all his concentrational powers for that transition.
You know what? I've just realised you could with Foxtrot you could actually have albums, couldn't you as well? There must be albums we could do about animals. I mean,
right,
not the whole thing, but just my favourite Animal albums.
Although the connection between the term Foxtrot, the album title, and any of the contents of that album,
it's not.
It's entirely 10 ninjas. It's limited to the fact that there's a picture of someone wearing Fox's head on the cover.
Yeah, there's not actually a link at all, is there?
Yeah, it's one of the many structural flaws in that album. But let's not let's not go there. Not today.
No.
All right, what do you got for?
So at number 4, I've got I've got a mammal, and it's Hungry Like the Wolf. I couldn't believe this. This is apparently it says 1982. That can't be correct. That must be later. Duran Duran. So English sort of new romantic pop band, basically. I have to say, I think Duran Duran are one of those underrated bands. I think they were very popular. They peaked, obviously in their time, sort of 85, that kind of period. But I still think they're kind of underappreciated for what they actually did. And I think that sometimes happens, doesn't it? When you're part of a movement and you're caught up with all these other bands and then it fades and your credibility sort of vanishes and no one listens to you anymore. But actually, looking back, they had some really good songs, and I really like Hungry Like the Wolf. And they had many good singles, I think, but this is very singable. It's very singable throughout, and it's got a lovely little key change, a shift into the chorus, which kind of goes sort of diagonally and then works its way back to the main line at the end. I really like it. I think also there was a kind of man crush, possibly. I don't know if we still use that these days, that phrase, but I kind of love the band. I actually love them, I think.
Right, yeah.
This is like when I'm like 11 or something, So I just think they're a lot more sophisticated than they're given credit for, and they kind of rolled along with that sound and everything. But there was a lot going on in there, I think, as well. So yeah, Hungry Like the Wolf.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one, isn't it? We don't discuss 80s music very much, do we? I can see we're going to be doing it tonight. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's about 82. This
it's quite early, that, isn't it?
Well, this is from Rio, right? Which is basically their best album, as far as I remember. It's got that sort of. It's the strongest album, I think, Rio. And it hasn't got a bad track on it, really. So it's probably their high point, really.
That's nice.
Also, slightly, sort of very poppy, but slightly artistic. A bit sort of Roxy Music, weren't they? Had a Roxy Music air about them, I always think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Yeah, good choice. Great track, that one. I think. What have I got? Okay, number 4. I've got a bit of prog. Cat food.
Cat food.
Yeah. I mean, it's got cat in the title. I mean, it's not. 1970. Yeah, I mean, I didn't include the giant hogweed because I figure that's a plant, even though it's a carnivorous plant. So I decided to go with cat.
It's my biologically plant, yeah.
So from my prog selection, I decided to go with cat food. I think one of the greatest songs to ever appear on Top of the Pops.
Yeah, weird.
Famously, Pan's People, the female dance troupe, couldn't dance to it because the beat, because they lop a beat off one of the bars, don't they? So. Although, I mean, to be fair, those women weren't the greatest dancers, even with a regular beat.
It reminds me of that with Stravinsky. There was a film about him trying to teach, the ballerinas how to do like parts of the Rite of Spring. They were like, this is undanceable, basically.
That's right. Who was it? Was it Diaghilev or someone like that?
Yes.
The choreographer. Yeah.
He sort of lost it with him.
Brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, what else? I think it's an important song, this one, Cat Food, because it's like the only real original move on the second King Crimson album, right? If you remember, because like the second album, In the Wake of Poseidon, is like the first half is more or less a retread of the first album, and then you hit the second side, and all of a sudden they're doing something completely different. So it's totally unexpected, this track, and I think it's very singular. Also, their first sort of foray into kind of surreal humour. Not for the last time, but there's a sort of surrealist element here, which I think is really interesting and funny and fun and unexpected.
Peter Sinfield,
lyrics.
I
mean, he goes off a bit for my taste later on, but I mean, at this point, he's firing on all cylinders. I think.
Yeah.
And I love the arrangement of this. I love the way that the guitar sort of stands out from all the other instruments, almost as if it's like a percussion instrument, you know. So yeah, it's a absolute classic, that one. All right, good. Number 3, Peter.
Well, interesting. You said your number 4 was 1970, because this is also 1970, and it's a mammal, and it's War Pigs by Black Sabbath. So the thing is about this era is so much is being born, isn't it? And things haven't their form hasn't quite been realised by people, you know. And it's these things all evolve into other things, obviously, but they're at their sort of core almost here, aren't they? And I think in a way it's a bit like this with War Pigs, which is there's a real simplicity to it and a really organic feel. You know, it seems to grow from section to section, and when you don't expect them, they stick in another section actually, and it's kind of just keeps growing. But it resolves itself so well. It builds so brilliantly. This, I think, you know, but it feels a bit like it's almost like they've kind of created a world of sound, but it's yet to be sort of honed. You know, it's so raw and like new and interesting like that. But what they're actually going to do with it, or what everyone else is going to do with it, you know, still sort of waits to be done. But it just builds brilliantly. I think there's loads of space in it as well. They're absolutely unafraid of using space. Those drum fills, you know, they just sort of come in, don't they? And it's like, they're quite long. It's quite big gaps in this song, you know. But I just think also Ozzy Osbourne, I mean, those early, you know, albums, he sounds so good. It's something about his voice, isn't it? It's completely like, you know, this is just a bloke going for it. But it's a great melody, because it has that sort of shift between minor and major again in the melody, which is really clever, I think. So yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's real like kind of core of something about to happen, you know. So it's exciting in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a popular track, that one, isn't it? And of course, it's got an animal in the title, so it makes our list. It's not one of my favourite Sabbath tracks. Me and Sean discussed this on an earlier episode, and because we discussed Paranoid, the album,
right?
And I pointed out that I thought that the early first 2 or 3 Black Sabbath albums, they're a bit riffy for my taste,
right?
And I prefer it from like 4 onwards, when Ozzy really starts singing. I think here he's almost treated like an ornament, his voice, and I prefer the sort of more songy stuff that they've done later on. But you know, it's people love it, so I'll shut my mouth. All right, good. My number 3 is Chestnut Mare by the Byrds from 1970. Now, this is one of my favourite Byrds songs, right? So I'm quite glad to have the opportunity to discuss it, actually. Now, there's a long story to this, but I'm not going to... I'll try and be brief. This song was mooted to be part of a sort of rock opera version of the Ibsen play Peer Gynt, right? Which was being put together by Roger McGuinn from the Byrds and the lyricist Jacques Levy, who later worked with Dylan, if you remember, on Desire. Yeah. It was going to be called Gene Trip, which is an anagram of Peer Gynt, right? Yeah. And there's a scene in Peer Gynt where the protagonist tries to tame a deer, and here they've made it into a horse, someone trying to tame a horse, basically, right? So it's supposed to be, of course, again, going back to the philosophical part, this is supposed to be an allegory for man's impossible desire to tame nature, basically. You know, or a woman, you know, because women are on the side of nature here. So that's like a weird resonance. I mean, I direct your attention to the following lyric. I'm going to catch that horse if I can, and when I do, I'll give her my brand. And we'll be friends for life. She'll be just like a wife. I'm going to catch that horse if I can. So that's a bit... it's not very... what's the word? Propitious, is it? But I think it's comic, really. You know, it's about a man's desire to tame a creature. Yeah, you know, it could be a horse, could be his wife or whatever. Yeah. And in the end, she always escapes, of course, which is the revenge of nature. Yeah. On man's intentions, you know. But yeah, beautiful tune this, especially the denouement. So, how's it go? And we'll be friends for life. She'll be just like a wife. That's I love that bit. And what else? So great. It was released as a single and promptly reached 121 on the Billboard top 200. So
they were aiming for 120, but
that's right. So it's a little disappointing. All right, great, Peter, you're number 2.
Well, just before I say that, I was going to say it's interesting that there's a lot of songs, isn't there, written about horses and, like you're saying, and cats and dogs. You know, like it kind of sounds a bit cavemanish, doesn't it? But these things naturally become the source of inspiration, don't they? Yeah. Not many people have written about, you know, oysters or something or whatever, you know, earthworms. Not so many.
That's right.
Anyway, so my number 2 is actually Albatross. 1969, nice bird song here by Fleetwood Mac. I tell you, you have to kind of realise that Fleetwood Mac were not this, basically. This is not what they did. And I think what must have happened, Peter Green must have come up with a riff. I'm sure there's a story behind this. And thought, oh God, that's actually quite good. But it's not what they were doing at the time. This isn't like classic Fleetwood Mac at all. But it's the thing they're remembered for, I think. You know, the Peter Green Fleetwood Mac. This is what they are to most people. But there is something saved in there because the guitars are so lovely. It's so beautifully produced, this, because what people have to remember, of course, is when you get a tune on a guitar, that doesn't, you know, that's a long way from a finished item, isn't it? It's what you do with it. How are you going to orchestrate that? And the drums just sound lovely. They are so, the middle or the bass on those drums, so turned up. They're just like these thuddy little things in the distance. And there's lovely little rides on the, you know, on the cymbals that come through, and that sort of rumbery bass thing in the background. But Peter Green just outdoes himself here, I think. It's so lovely. You know, it's that kind of simplicity. They managed to get the second sort of part so it all fits in, a little bit guitar sort of, you know, improv, but not much really, you know. And I just think it's like they must have ummed and ahed about this. It sounds great, but is it us? I don't think you could sell it to anyone, this, could you? They had to do this, I think. But and it's a classic, you know, of the time, you know, sort of, you know, what do they call it? Slow dance stuff. Yeah. But I love it. I absolutely love it. And I often think that the last thing he must have thought is, what are we going to call it? What do you call this thing we've created? And God knows how they came up with Albatross. Maybe someone saw one on the TV or something. But
was it?
You know,
was it a reference? It's not a reference to Samuel Taylor Coleridge, is it? The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Well, maybe it is.
Meaning like this is a sign of disaster. So maybe like. Yeah. What should we call this song? You know, disaster.
Yeah, Our Impending Doom.
Our Impending Doom. Yeah, that's right. Good.
I think it wouldn't be long after this, really, that Peter Green sort of had this bad experience and, you know, it was all over anyway. But, yes. Yeah, so, yeah, Albatross, number 2 for me.
Good. Big hit in England, that one. And, of course, inspired Sun King, which is one of the weakest tracks from Abbey Road.
You're right. It's very evocative of that, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
They obviously were listening to that at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, my number 2 is for vertebrates, is Hey Bulldog by the Beatles, 1967. We seem to be going backwards, actually, chronologically. So, one of my favourite Beatles songs, this one, and bloody outtake.
Yeah.
You know, for all intents and purposes. But I think it's got everything, really, this track. It's written by John Lennon, but you know, I think of it like almost like a Wagner opera. You know, it's like they've stuck everything in it. You know, even the kitchen sink. Got a great sort of Black Sabbath type, going back to Sabbath guitar riff.
Yeah.
And then it comes in with a great sort of rock and roll song with like really interesting chord changes. You know. John Lennon wrote really interesting chord sequences. It doesn't get mentioned much. But, you know, it's sort of effortlessly unusual the way that the chords roll out in this song. And it got unexpected key changes as well. It's got key changes in it. And what else? There's sort of almost classical sequence in the bridge. You can talk to me. You can talk to me. That bit. Where the you know, it's got the ascending fifth in the chords. And the song sort of moves from compound time at the beginning to simple time at that point, which makes it sound really driving. So that speaks to, you know, as people say, their like arrangement abilities, right?
Yeah. There's also the drums are really stand out on this, don't they?
Ringo
they're pretty
sounds
full
great
on.
on it. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good Ringo showcase, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's a counterpoint between the main riff and the verse chords. So basically, it's extremely complexly written, but also incredibly concise.
Yeah.
Also, what else? Sort of some funny and characteristic sort of Beatles vocal improvisations towards the end, which had always been their trademark. So it's sort of, because this is 67, it's quite an ambitious piece of writing, but it's also reminiscent of like their early days, really.
So what was this aimed at? I mean, where was this going to fit into the singles? Or
Well, it was written for Yellow Submarine, I think.
Right.
But I think only sort of speculatively, because it wasn't
Right.
clear at this point whether they were just doing sort of tracks post Pepper,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't clear whether they were going to be for the Magical Mystery Tour film or the Yellow Submarine film or stroke cartoon or whatever it was. And so they probably hadn't passed them out yet.
Yeah.
But I think they were just. People always say they were a bit lost at this point, but the thing is that actually almost all the tracks in this period are brilliant. I prefer this period really than to the Pepper period. But anyway, let's not go there because that's too controversial. The other thing I want to mention is it's surrealist lyrics again. Which is again a sort of half forgotten, element of 60s pop culture. I think slightly influenced by William Burroughs. It's sort of like a cut-up thing. John Lennon did it with "I Am the Walrus" as well.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a bit like later Bowie, who I think also took the same technique from Burroughs. But yeah, so there's and also like he's playing the words for sound as well and enunciation,
which is all new.
It's all new.
It's all new.
Yeah.
That idea.
And that's almost, like a sort of Joycean thing. I mean, if you look at his books, they're all about, like cutting up phonemes and things, which is, a bit related to this, I think. So, it shows his artistry, I think, this song very well. All right. So, your number one.
Well, number one is going to be unknown, really, to most people, which is The Lion's Roar by First Aid Kit. Now, First Aid Kit, I thought you might throw your arms up there. First Aid Kit are from Scandinavia, but they look like a duo from like California, and they sound like it as well. This is 2012, this one. So I think it was their second album. It's such a lovely tune, and these two girls, they sing together. I say girls, women. They sing in such. They have such a great format for the way that they do things, because you never quite can work out what the second one's about to do until she does. The harmonies are just wonderful, and I think once you've got a good tune, a bit like the Everleys, really, once you've got a good tune, you just slot in the second part. But they're always slightly unpredictable, I think, the way that they do things. There's real intention, like in the feel of this. They kind of know exactly what they want to do with it. It rises and falls brilliantly, and the middle eight. Well, this is often the case with songs, I find. Is you express the sort of verse and chorus, don't you? And that's like it's never enough. And I know some songs don't have middle eights, but this one slots it in so well. Has a great other middle eight, which then slots back into halfway through the verse. And they do that where they kind of go, you don't actually go back into the verse, you kind of drop halfway into it. I love that technique. It exists in other songs, but I can't think of any at the moment. But it's brilliant the way they do it, and it just peaks at the end of the song and then just drops down to this sort of quiet falling off. I really recommend First Aid Kit. That album and Stay Gold are really nice albums. They're sort of folk, but sort of poppy-ish. Quite popular at the moment, but yeah, The Lion's Roar is got to be my favourite mammal song. Vertebrates. Definitely, I love it.
All right, good. Well, I have nothing to say on that. I shall be looking that up immediately after this episode. All right, good. You've got your finger on the pulse more than I have, I think, because for my number one, I'm going back to 1968, and this time an aquatic vertebrate. Yeah. This is a Porpoise song by the Monkees.
Right.
This is a Goff and King song, right? And it's a thing of beauty, like a porpoise. I mean, I guess that's the idea, right? In that sense, there's something programmatic about this. It's a kind of, kind of hippie masterpiece. This track. It's got a really interesting, unexpected chord sequence. I mean, it essentially changes key constantly through E major, A major, D major, and what else? Well, like the melody is choral, right? So it's carried by the choir of sort of monkeys' voices, basically. This, of
Sounds
course,
intriguing.
yeah, of course. There's this. I mean, we've got Porpoise Song by the Monkees, so we've got a double. I mean, it had to be number one. This, but yeah, I think it's a sort of integral piece of writing. This, it's not just a pop song; it represents a higher sort of musical imagination. And again, the words are sort of about how animals are beyond, go beyond the human and have a sort of authenticity, a kind of enigmatic authenticity, which could be seen as a romantic motif, or even, I was thinking, slightly Orientalist, but could also see it as a kind of form of like stoicism, really. Like there's certain material circumstances, natural circumstances which surround us and which we can't ever really control, and so you have to kind of accept that, incorporate that, fold that into your thinking, fold that into your rationality. But yeah, so this is, let's say, the hippie aesthetic, I think, in its most profound and beautiful version. It kind of makes you, it's the sort of song that I think makes you want to be a hippie, in the way that like Leni Riefenstahl's films kind of make you want to be a Nazi. You know what I mean? It's just, never mind the content.
There's a kind of sadness, isn't there, when you listen. I mean, this isn't our era, but when you sort of listen back to those things, you think, oh God, like it's almost sad to think that that's gone and will never return, and you were never part of it. Tough. When we had the 80s, that was like the 80s and 90s, what did you do with it? But there's nothing compared to the generosity and beauty of that era. It's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, sad, but I mean, it was, maybe it had a shelf life. I don't know. I mean, but it's, there is something, there's something nice about it, I think. Now, good. Let's go to, so that's vertebrates tied up. Now let's go to invertebrates.
Things without backbones.
Things without backbones, yes.
What a way to define our songs.
That's right. So, I mean, I think that there's going to be some. I don't know how much biological discussion we're going to slip in here, but let's see how we do. So, what have you got at number 5 then, Peter?
Well, it's interesting what you were just talking about to do with this kind of the world of nature and the way it impinges upon, there's certain unalterable things that humans have to deal with is sort of like the point of the next song, actually, which is Jesse Wells' Bugs. This is 2024. Jesse Wells is a sort of country sort of folk artist from the United States, really popular at the moment. He's all over Spotify. But this is like it's like a vaudeville sort of comedy guitar and voice song about the merits of bugs. So he calls it Bugs, right. But he's talking about like all those little creatures basically. So talking about the importance of them, how he won't he won't chase one in order to kill it. He'll let them out. He lets them sort of join in with things that he does. So in his day-to-day life, he kind of incorporates the insects into his life as well. And of course there's a really big green message behind all this, of course, which is this is the world we live in and we really need to protect it. And of course there was an interesting fact I found out, actually, which is they say if aliens came to Earth and they sort of looked at the biomass, and tried to work out like what the species were on Earth, they'd actually come to the conclusion that planet Earth is a planet of insects. That's actually what it is, and that humans are part of that, but actually it's insects that sort of run it. Which find slightly scary and also quite enlightening to know. But this is great. I mean, it's sort of comedy throughout, really, but it's really honestly, put, lyrically, kind of cleverly written. A really great performance as well. He's someone who's worth sort of listening to his other bits and pieces. There's a few sort of acoustic bits, but there's also a band stuff as well. But this is like a really good, just summing up of the sort of necessity of accepting things as they are, I think. And, he kind of does it in this charming way. So, yeah, Jesse Wells' Bugs.
Oh, we're all bang up to date here.
Bug isn't even the name of an animal. I just got away with it. Yeah.
He doesn't. There isn't a verse about pulling the wings off them.
No, but he does advise against that.
Okay,
don't do it.
Good to know. All right, good. Well, look, my number 5 is again, we're dealing with motifs or animal motifs here. So, sort of how to interpret the animal kingdom. My number 5 is "Day of the Locusts" by Bob Dylan from 1970. Now, this is my favourite song from New Morning. I'll come back to the interpretation of the locusts in a second because I think it's important, right? But this is my favourite song from New Morning. In fact, I would say perhaps it's the only song I like from New Morning, but I don't want to wind you up. But yeah, I mean, the standard interpretation is that this is about him accepting his honorary degree, right? Can't quite remember what university it was, but anyway, so the standard interpretation is that the locusts represent the academics who are surrounding him as he gets his degree. But I think that's not right. I think that he's with the academics in the room, and I think the locusts are elsewhere. I think that's an important point. Because I think my interpretation is that the locusts here, the insects, the locusts represent what in psychoanalysis is called jouissance, which is basically has no translation into English, but it means enjoyment, basically. So they're actually subterranean, right? So they live underground, and then very occasionally, every 17 years, they escape and basically cause a huge problem for everyone. So jouissance is associated in the clinic with guilt and social aggression and discomfort and anxiety, which is an effect of feeling uncomfortable with an established order, right? I think that this wasn't really Dylan's best songwriting period, but I think this is a really great tune. And apparently they introduced him at the university as the disturbed voice of young America, which he hated, apparently, didn't like that description. But I think that that's exactly what he was. And I think that this track proves it, basically, because what he's saying is that there's a subterranean anxiety here that none of us can quite, put our finger on or cope with, but it's definitely there,
I love the way you've got into the life cycle of a locust.
I know,
it's like you've done your own research
I know.
with their life, what they do.
That's right. I mean, I had to look into it. By the way, probably a Dylan episode coming up soon, I think, if me and Peter have anything to do with it. But so stay tuned for that.
There's the obvious sort of biblical link as well, isn't there? Plague of locusts, which is interesting because, of course, this is sort of pre-Dylan, sort of making it clear that things had changed, in his sort of, religious conversion and things. This is 1970. We haven't got to that point yet, really, have we? But he's very aware of all that.
So yes, it's very weird, isn't it? He's already reading his Bible, isn't he? Quite a lot at this point. Old Testament as well. So but none of this becomes operational until later on in his work. But yeah, fascinating. All right, good. Well, so what's your number 4 then?
So my number 4 is "There's a Moth in My Room" by Gasoline Green. This is really up to date because this is actually 2025 as well.
Bloody hell!
I know. These are all insect songs as well, by the way. I think insect seems to be the thing that I've just landed on. There seems to be a lot of songs about insects. But yeah, "There's a Moth in My Room" is this kind of idea of, something that's not quite right and you can't quite seem to deal with it, but it's always there, and every morning it sort of appears. The moths have that weird they have that weird habit, don't they, of remaining completely still, and you don't know why they're completely still until you disturb them, and then they just go absolutely frantic. It's kind of, I don't know whether that's sort of trying to be embodied in the song, in the sort of lyrics. The lyrics are fairly confusing for this, but I think there's a kind of disturbance somehow, it's personified through this idea of the moth. But beside the lyrics, I mean, it's actually the tune is really good. I mean, I love this. This is a classic example of kind of modern British indie rock, basically. It doesn't have that blues feel, which I always find it's funny because I'm sort of raised in that sort of world where I expect to always hear a bluesy moment. This isn't like that at all. You know, this is just sort of classic indie rock, very current to what's happening at the moment in the country, I think. And it steps up into the verse really beautifully. It has that, it goes to sort of major seventh chord, sort of distant, unrelated, and somehow makes its way back to the verse, which has this really driving sort of bass line. There's a horn part in there as well. But the Gasoline Green write really well. I mean, I just think, you know, they are definitely going places, if not just the writer, actually, who will probably end up doing bigger things in the future. But it's early days for them. But I really enjoy this song.
And then we'll end up on The Masked Singer.
Yeah, because that's where they should be.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, that's another one I don't know, and I'll have to look up later on. So I slightly suffer from the Sean syndrome of stopping listening to new music in about 1995, with one or two exceptions. And here, my number 4 is one of them. This is a bit of a punt. My number 4 is Weird Fishes by Radiohead from 2007. Now, of course, biologically contentious this, because fish are vertebrates.
Yes.
Categorized as vertebrates, but I thought weird fishes might not be.
Imagine being a fish without a backbone. It just sort of flop.
Well, exactly. I mean, presume the point is that if a weird fish is not is a kind of fish that might not be a vertebrate. That was my thinking.
You've done it very well. I commend you.
Yeah, it is again rather tendentious. This, but I mean, for example, lampreys.
Yes.
Or certain kinds of eels, maybe. But yeah, I think this is one of those absolutely wonderful Radiohead deep cuts. Is that what they're called? You know, real high point of In Rainbows. Possibly their greatest album. I mean, we need to do a Radiohead ranking, I think, at some point. I'm just like casting.
Sean literally can't do it, can he? Because when the first album came out, he's out at that point. He doesn't even get to the first album.
That's right. It's a Brave New World when they kill people when they get to 60. Something similar happened with his taste in pop music. In 1995. Yeah, so look, the thing is, so I think that this, what I like about this track is it sort of echoes the cross rhythms, which are very characteristic of one of the paradigmatic Radiohead deep cut, perhaps, which is Let Down from OK Computer. And so it's got these sort of cross rhythms between the different layers of guitar. It seems to have lots of guitar layers. Of course, a nod to Reichian minimalism, right? The repetitive sequences. Reminds me of Electric Counterpoint by Steve Reich. And remember, Johnny Greenwood did a cover of Electric Counterpoint, didn't he? And not to mention the fact that Steve Reich, the contemporary composer, rewrote a couple of Radiohead tracks.
Oh, right.
In this piece called Radio Rewrite. They were both one of them was from In Rainbows. It wasn't this one, it was another one, whose name escapes me. But also Everything in its Right Place, he copied as well. He did a version of. What else? Beautiful existential lyrics, typical of Tom York. You know, there's a bit at the end where he says, "I hit the bottom and escape," which is philosophically quite profound. You know, you can only escape by going right to the bottom.
Right.
So that's a sort of existential motif, really. But yeah, absolutely love this track. It's one of those tracks that makes In Rainbows like a sort of a classic album, I think, really. Peter, 3. Hi, you there?
So my third one, sorry, is another insect, and it's Beetle Bum by Blur. Now I know this is very contentious, this song, because some people say Blur had sort of had it by that period. They peaked very quick, and then everything died off. But I've always really liked this song. I've always really liked it, and I did have to listen. You know, some of these songs you have to sort of almost go back to, don't you, and say, well, do I like this? Because your tastes change. They do change. So I had a little listen through again.
Am I me? Am I me?
Am I still me? Well, it's a good question. You know, but I just think the verse builds really well, you know, and I think it's sort of cut into two sections. The chorus, they don't really know where to go with the chorus, I don't think, really, with this, but they sort of manage it. But I still think the verse is really good. It's got this mysterious side to it, sort of dark, mysterious thing. I think I really like Damon Albarn anyway as a solo act, you know, and I think he's done wonders like recently with Blur, but kind of his own stuff I really enjoy as well. And it's got that kind of feeling to it, that sort of cool mystery to it. I think that he kind of takes on his own. It's very singable. I'm guessing it was a big hit at the time as well, but it kind of opens up like a sort of different side of them, really, I think, which is not quite, it's like not charming in the same way, because I know that they were sort of charmers, really, weren't they? A lot of that sort of 95, 96, but this kind of changes the sort of feel of it, and I don't think they ever went back really to what they did before, although, you know, most people like, you know, this sort of slightly earlier stuff than that. So yeah, I just think it's a very singable song, and you know, sticks with me, so I like this one.
It was number one, I think, in the UK, wasn't it? That track went to number one.
Quite possibly.
I think I remember that, like, empirically. I remember witnessing it being number one. Yeah.
You were there. Evidence.
I was there. Was it a critique of Oasis, Beetle Bum? Was it supposed to be like taking the piss out of Oasis?
Yeah, like, except I did check the spelling.
Yeah. Well, right, yeah.
Because I needed to make sure we were okay with it. Well, yeah, it could have been, yeah.
Because otherwise it would have been libelous, perhaps.
Yeah.
All right, good. Now that was the more recent one that I do remember. Recent. Yeah. It's from about 1996. Anyway, all right, good. Now let's drag things back to, you know, normality. I'm going back to 1970 for my number 3. Dragonfly by the Strawbs, a charming little folk number. This is the sweet spot where the Strawbs were still exploring their folky side before going full on rock. The album Dragonfly, because this is the title track from their second album, it's not quite at the level of the follow-up album, which is From the Witchwood, which is I think is their masterpiece. Check out Sean and my discussion of that album if you're interested on Crapper. And but yeah, I think it's sort of got some signifiers, this track, that kind of points in the direction of From the Witchwood. It's the sort of those kind of sub-Wordsworthian lyrics are already on display that they put to good use in From the Witchwood. I mean, essentially, you know, this romantic motif of like nature is the truth, you know, and we have to see what's going on in nature in order to understand reality itself and ourselves, sort of thing. But the dragonfly in this song seems to represent sort of fragility, the fragility and contingency of life, let's say. But yeah, again, that gap between animal life and natural life and human life, on the other hand, is kind of like all present and correct here, which is a key element of, again, critical hippie philosophy. I think hippieism and romanticism have quite a lot in common, really.
Yeah. I think it's they're kind of, animal songs tend to have a sort of deeper meaning in some way anyway, don't they? Because the very fact that you're referring to something with a conscience, you know, that it kind of is somehow we're reflecting on something, aren't we, when we talk about them? I mean, in the serious ones, I mean, there's lots of silly animal songs. Yeah, I mean, there are, you know, tons of stupid ones, but, you know, the ones that are actually meaning something are usually fairly deep.
Yeah, Cat Food by King Crimson is not a meditation on the, you know, the deeper significance of matter.
Yeah, of mechanically recovered meat.
All right, good. What's your number 2 then?
Well, I'm sure you know this because I've mentioned it a few times, which is Adam and the Ants was my very first album I ever got, and Kings of the Wild Frontier was their first album. It came out in 1980, and so I pestered my dad. We went and bought it, and there was one track on it which sticks out as being like completely different to all the other ones, which is a song called "Ants Invasion," and it was like the first proper song that I thought was like a proper sort of rock feel for an era of pop that wasn't really very guitar-y at all, really. And it's the first sort of proper song I really liked, I think. I mean, I was 8, something like that, 8. And this has got a really great, like, scorching guitar lead part to it. And it's got, it's quite dark and it's really high up on the guitar neck. Sorry, I'm talking like I'm a 10-year-old. This is how I'm thinking about it. And it's kind of really pierces your imagination. And it's fairly simple, you know, this kind of idea of, you know, I mean, the whole Adam Ant thing was a bit silly, wasn't it? They had to sing about, you know, this is an ants invasion. What are you going to do when the ants invade and all this? But it's got a great little middle section, which I think has sort of affected some of my writing, which is everything drops out suddenly and it goes into this little sort of, it's almost like a ukulele or something and a voice. And then it all comes crashing back in like it's parted the waves of this song, and it kind of goes really weird and small and then explodes back into something else, which is something I really appreciate about it. And I've sort of forgotten that happened, actually. So it's kind of imaginative. They're a bit short-lived, this band, you know, but I think they had a couple of, well, that first album definitely I like, but this really sticks out as just being a bit different on there, and probably the first song I ever liked anyway. So there he is.
Very good. Yes, I mean, I thought one of my possibles was Ant music.
Yes,
right.
That's the one everyone knows them for.
That's right. Yeah, because again, like you were saying, like that was when I came on Grid. You know, like that seeing that on Top of the Pops on Thursday night.
Yeah,
at 7:30 or whatever, because there's sort of like, this was before the internet when everyone was doing different things, and like in those days everyone did the same thing. So like you and your mum and your nan, all witnessed at 7:30 on Thursday night on BBC One after the news. You know,
we saw
Adam Ant changing pop music forever.
This afternoon there was some documentary on, and it mentioned Fame, the American sort of dance school drama thing. And I was thinking, I used to watch Fame. I was about 8. Yeah. It was totally inappropriate, but we had no choice. There wasn't anything else on, so it's like everyone witnessed these things, and it's bizarre.
That's right. Yeah. It's not better. It was just different.
Different.
So yeah, all right, great stuff. Now my number 2 is Spider and I by Brian Eno from 1977. This is the beautiful closing track to what I think is Brian Eno's best album. You know, or you know, at least the best of the ones I've heard, because he's done about 1 million albums. I probably haven't heard them all, but I think Before and After Science is a masterpiece, and side 1 is more rocky, side 2's quite sort of deathly, and this is its culminating act. It's an unusually tuneful album for Eno, this one. I mean, he's singing a lot on it, but the ambient sounds are also really, really kind of moving. This song is about a boy who has a spider for a friend, and they hang out and they dream together, which is a nice touch. Sort of magical realism, I suppose, about a sky ship that's going to come along and take them away, rescue them from the boredom of their lives, you know, him and his spider. I think Brian Eno might have been obsessed with spiders, because I heard him on Desert Island Discs, the BBC show, and he said that for his special object, because you're allowed a special object when you're washed up on the desert island, he said he wanted a giant spider that he would have to spend the rest of his life like, you know, like escaping from. So that's obviously part of his consciousness.
Strange desert island request.
I know. He said, "Could I have something that's real, or something that like could possibly exist in a different universe?" Anyway, yeah. So yeah, good. And he's, of course, mentioned this the other day in a previous episode. He's from my hometown, Brian Eno. And my mum knows his brother. All right, good. No, not his brother. His uncle, who taught her clarinet at music college. There you go. That's what it was. Now,
before we go to the number 1,
yeah,
we all know it's important the invertebrate number one. There was I had a bit of a dilemma when we're sort of choosing these. I don't know if you suffered the same thing, which was it was the Pink Floyd thing, which was, am I going to choose something from Animals? Because the first thing I thought was just the album Animals. Like, how easy is that?
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm not going to do that.
On Animals.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that one. This is the thing. I'm not going to do that. And then I thought, there are so many well-known songs. Like, when I started looking, I thought, for God's sake, like Eye of the Tiger Feet, these I thought, do I like those songs? Do I want to speak about those? But they're the ones that really jump into your mind. They're the ones you suddenly think, oh yeah, everyone knows those. If you ask anyone about animal songs, they'll always tell you the awful ones, that just sort of you don't want to deal with. So I kind of really had to look, to find these. But they are out there, they are out there.
Did you have any others then that you excluded? Any other also rans?
There were some ortho-rans, but I haven't actually made a note of them. But yes, there were quite a few I had to get rid of, actually. And there was a bit of a dilemma with one of them, and I eventually plummeted for that. But yeah,
was it
off the top of my head? I can't remember.
A musical dilemma or a biological one?
No biological dilemmas.
Okay,
they were all clear cut. It's just that I had to sort of decide, which one I prefer. So I had to go through them. I made a little playlist actually for myself on Spotify to listen through to them to sort of say, yeah, they're the ones.
Right. I mean, I think you can probably share that with the listeners. I don't know how to do that, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure whether to do because I was thinking about prog stuff because you've got Animals, of course, but also Waiting for the Worms.
Yes,
off the Wall, but that's not the best track on the wall anyway.
No.
Fly on a Windshield by Genesis. Obviously for the invertebrate list, but again, I'm not a huge fan of that.
No.
Bytor and the Snow Dog by Rush.
The Snow Dog. Obviously, that's a real thing.
Yeah, that's right. Famous in the vertebrate category. Also
dinosaurs. I was thinking, is it like extinct animals don't count?
Yeah, okay, yeah. 'Cause you could have Dinosaur by King Crimson.
Yeah, those old Dodo songs,
Yeah. The other one I got was The Vultures Fly High by Renaissance, because I thought that's 2 for 1, isn't that? That's a twofer, vultures and flies. That covers vertebrates and invertebrates. All right, good. So without further ado, let's go to number one. So what's your number one invertebrate song?
So my number one invertebrate song is Fifi the Flea by the Hollies. And this is, I looked this up, this is a wingless arthropod. All the others are insects, by the way. This is a wingless arthropod. So for those of you who care. This is such a charming...
Thanks for specifying.
Yeah, we need to get precise. This is such a charming little song, and I was amazed to find out this is actually Graham Nash. I thought this was just like some sort of weird trad song, that he just recorded. But he actually wrote this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's just the idea of writing something like this in 1966 for the Hollies. So the Hollies at this moment are kind of they're at a point where the psychedelic stuff's sort of starting to happen. They haven't quite got to that point yet, but the next year he makes that choice, to leave. And this song does stick out on the album as being, he can see things are changing, because this is a sort of silly child song, really. It's completely at odds with what the Hollies are doing at the time. But, the next year he sort of says, look, we're either going to change or I'm out of here, and they have a go at changing, and he tries it, and then he just goes, But this is just a beautiful little song. It's a tragedy, basically, this song, about unrequited love between fleas, which, it's got a sort of comedy to it because, of course, no such thing exists. But it really goes through, this sort of story of, Fifi the flea fell in love with this clown flea from another circus, and she cries about him, and he goes off, and he sort of dates all these other fleas, and she dies of heartbreak. But then he dies because he realizes what he's done, and it says at the end they open up her grave and they put him inside. It's like, how big are we talking here? There's just like some micro little story. It's so weird. And as I said, it just sounds like something that was written long ago. like some traditional thing, and he's just done it so well. I absolutely love it. It's charming, singable, slightly unusual. It has this sort of descending route, a bit like the start of Mother Nature's Son, that sort of descending route at the start. So it sort of mimics that a little bit. But obviously, didn't mimic it because that came later. But I absolutely love it. I think Fifi the Flea's a wonderful song, and you should listen to it too.
Do you think it's supposed to be an allegory for his unrequited love, the unrequited love that the rest of the Hollies had for him?
I couldn't possibly say. I don't know what state they were in '66. I think things were probably all right, but they fell apart.
But he was out early, wasn't he? 67, didn't he leave? I can't
remember. They did a couple of psychedelic albums, but he'd had enough, I think, and he realised, he was going to go and meet Joni Mitchell somewhere.
That's right, yeah. All right, good. Well, look, let's bring this to a close with my number one, which is A Louse Is Not a Home by Peter Hamill from 1974. You were talking about Plague of Locusts earlier. I'm going Plague of Lighthouse Keepers. This track is the closer from this remarkable Peter Hamill album called The Silent Corner and the Empty Stage, which I think this track is sort of like a missing link between Pawn Hearts and God Bluff, right? So if you like God Bluff, you'll really like this. It's more on the God Bluff side, actually. But apparently it was supposed to have been written for the follow-up to Pawn Hearts a couple of years previously, right? So he'd had it hanging around for a while. It's a bit like Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, but condensed into 12 minutes, right? So it's unusually molecular, to use the philosophical term, this for a Van der Graaf song, because it essentially was a Van der Graaf song. But, all the usual elements are present and correct. You've got the existential vocal, piano stabbing passages here are particularly heartrending, and the band bits are all really exciting. Lyrics are sort of a follow-up to A House with No Door from H2HE, Who I'm the Only One. Hamill's talking about being trapped in a haunted house. I saw him do it live the other day, recording him doing it live, and he said, this is a horror story. Right, so it's like it's got sort of Edgar Allan Poe elements, because remember Fall of the House of Usher, he did a version of that later on, like a musical version of the Fall of the House of Usher with Chris Judge Smith, who was one of the original Van der Graaf members. And so it's all about how to escape the haunted house, which is Hamill's whole motif here. It's what I called in my Van der Graaf episode a body without organs, which is a reference to like the French philosopher Gilles Deleuze, like how sort of like desire or drive can overrun the structure of a set structure like a house. By the way, also on the same point, Deleuze and Guattari, the louse of the title can be seen, I think, as the little bit of fascism that haunts us all. To put it in the terms that Deleuze and Guattari use. So he says at the end, "I'll delouse this place. I'll deplace this louse," right? Which is clever. It means that he can't actually ever get rid of this louse, even though he wants to, right?
Yeah.
So he always has to be on his guard, on guard.
He's quite an acquired taste, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
He is, but he's one of those examples of a genuine artist, isn't he? Because what he's doing is what he wants to do. There's no sort of compromise at all. You're either on board or you're not, But his voice is a very specific kind of sound as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Robert Fripp famously described him as the Jimi Hendrix of the voice, right? Because, of all the effects that he's using and constant distortion that he's using on his voice, which I don't know how he does it really. But I think, you either he's just I think of him as a great British eccentric, really, and I say that without any chauvinism at all. I just think he's like one of those people that makes me kind of like, one of those things that makes me proud to be British. That my culture produced someone like him, I would say.
Yeah, and yet he never got knighted.
Never got knighted, that's right, yeah. Well,
what are they doing?
Fingers crossed. All right, well, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can leave it there. I think
I'm done.
We've dispatched our task with admirable aplomb, I would say. Be sure to tune in next time for songs about plants. No. No, that's
there are.
All right, good. Well, look, Return of the Giant Hogweed will be one of mine, as I've already established. All right, good. Well, thank you very much, Peter.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Tim.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember to like and subscribe and rank the podcast if you get the opportunity. It means a lot to us. And we'll see you on the next episode, which should be coming up next week, I think. So, ta-ra for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.